speaker today is Tony Hahn. He was born and raised in Chicago, Illinois. He has an education, BS in horticulture and education, and he graduated from Michigan State University in 1982. He comes from a very large family of 9 kiddos. He is the 8th in that line, and of 7 brothers and 2 sisters. Can you believe that? That's crazy. Tony began his career as a caddy on a local country club and went to work as the grounds crew at the same club at age 16. He attended Michigan State University on a full ride academic scholarship courtesy of the Evans Scholarship Program awarded in 1978. He is past president of the Rocky Mountain Regional Turf Grass Association and past president of the Colorado Turf Grass Foundation. Try to say that 10 times. He has a QS from the Colorado Department of Agriculture, and he is certified. He is a certified arborist with the International Society of Arboriculture since 1984 and 1992, respectively. He arrived in Colorado in 1982, worked for the County Fair Gardens Center, sorry, I can't see, Chemlawn Services Corporation as field manager with Swingle Tree Service. Everybody remembers Swingle. He was there for 30 years as an arborist consultant. And just this past, he's been here over a year now with our companies. January of 2020, he is Denver Commercial Property Services Plant and Tree Healthcare Division Manager for our company. He also has 2 adult daughters and enjoys swimming, reading, and working with his clients. Tony's amazing. I can only tell you that. I just, working with him for over a year now. He has expertise. You may see him on Channel 9 News. He has a spot with on that once in a while with Corey Reppenhagen. Sorry, that's a hard word for me. And then he's also featured sometimes on the Saturday morning gardening wise guys on the radio. So he has a lot of expertise in tree care and landscape and all of that. So Tony,
thanks.
Go for it.
Thanks everybody. I really appreciate this gracious opportunity. And just to give you a fair warning, I do move a lot, so you don't need to worry about that camera.
I'm just gonna try to
move a lot, just trying to keep people's attention. But in any event, building operators, I can't imagine the responsibility of an entire building. I'm not very good at taking care of my own house, let alone the entire building. But anyway, what I want to do for you today, what do I want to do for you today? Keep in mind, I like to move just to keep your interest. Is, believe it or not, I want to make your job easier. I, honest to goodness, want to make your job easier. The second thing I want to do for you guys is save you money, help you save money, because I know budgets are reality for you guys. And I also want to help you spend what money you have wisely, because again, budgets are tight because of the COVID, but I see incredible amounts of waste every day. Every day I see a lot of waste. And one of the reasons I jumped at this opportunity is because I see it as a chance to help you eliminate waste and save money, make your job easier. And that's in all honesty, when I get out of bed every day, what I want to do for my clients is those exact things. So I'm going to give you a broad overview. I've been in Colorado since 1979. My first job was actually at it was at 711 County Line Road, Wilmore Gardens. Anyway, I'm going to give you a broad picture of what is going on here in Colorado, because it's a different place to try and grow trees and lawns. And anyway, feel free to stop me, raise your hand if you have a question. because I want to make this time that we have together as valuable as possible. So I want you to walk out of here today going, aha, I can save some money. Aha, I don't need to worry about that anymore. Aha, this is something that I can do that won't cost a lot of money. Anyway, I'm going to talk generally about landscaping along the front range, and that is one of my favorite pictures. My son-in-law took that picture from the top of Cherry Creek Dam a couple of years ago. Anyway, I love Denver. I absolutely love Colorado. I'm from Chicago, Illinois, the most dangerous city in the world, as you may see on a nightly basis on the news. But anyway, I love Denver. I love Colorado and the mountains, and I ain't going back. Anyway, so if you could move to the next slide, please. There we go. Anyway, this you can skip that one. You've already heard that from Sandra. Go to the next one if you don't mind. I don't have a ton of slides. Anyway, we are in a step climate. The climate zone that we're in, it's classically known as a step climate, and it's essentially a vast plain. When people came to Colorado back in the 1850s, this is what they saw. There's no trees. If you drive out of town, head east, you don't see any trees. And that's for good reason. It's a vast plain. And the reasons for that, there's a reason for everything. And the reason it's so doggone tough to grow trees in Colorado is right here. Because we have temperature fluctuations. Incredible, and we're going to talk about that, incredible temperature fluctuations, extreme weather conditions, low humidity levels, bright sunshine. One of the keys is we have soils that are very low in organic matter, and we have pH challenges, soil acidity and alkalinity. Believe it or not, 90 to 95% of the trees that we have in our landscapes, they're not native to Colorado. That's really critical. Really, really critical. You understand that? You walk outside and you look at all the trees and all the bushes and all the shrubs and all the flowers. Most of them are not native to this area. And that is the biggest challenge that we face. Is because we are trying to grow plants here that don't grow. And they have a heck of a time growing. So, yes, Colorado, I love it. Vast plain, especially one without trees. And I remember, go ahead if you want to move to the next slide. I went and did some weather research. I just come from Michigan, graduated from college. I knew everything. I knew everything. You know, you graduate from college, you know it all. Anyway, I came out here in March of '82. And then in April, we had our greenhouses filled with flowers. And then along about April 21st, here's a little dot right there, the low temperature got down to 20 degrees on April 21st. And I've never seen that before. How many of you are from Colorado? A lot of you. Okay, so you're kind of used to it. The rest of us are from other places. So the temperatures, I had never seen $50,000 worth of bedding plants. Frozen. Gone. That was my first lesson. You can go to the next slide. So April 21st. Who remembers November of 2014? What happened in November of 2014? Big bang. This was really the biggest, this was a fluctuation like I had never seen. We had, it was a very warm, very dry fall, and long about November 12, 13, I remember I was out at Foothills Golf Course doing a consultation, and it was a Monday, and it was about 65 degrees, and I saw this cloud coming over the mountains, and about 60 miles an hour. Wind came through, a front came through, and then 2 days later, it was 15 below zero. 15 below zero. And that's 2 days later. So here we are in Colorado. We have plants that aren't native to this area. They don't grow here normally. And then what do? Within 72 hours, you change the temperature by close to 75 degrees. Not good. That's not good. So Next spring, the spring of 2015, we had tons and tons of dead trees, and everybody's going, why? What the heck happened? What the heck happened? Well, that's what happened. Colorado is a place where we have wild swings in temperature. And it's very difficult to grow trees here. It's not your fault. So you can go to the next slide. Okay, this is some of the results. I went out to Roxborough Park the following spring. This is out by Arrowhead Golf Course. Had a lady call up and said, you sprayed my trees, you killed my trees, it's your fault, I want you to replace all these trees. And this was the blue spruce that had gone through that 75-degree temperature swing. You see down here at the bottom, it's curiously green. That's where the snow was insulated. Anyway, this tree today is perfectly healthy and alive. Spruces, conifers, pine trees, they're built for this area, so they can handle the temperature swings. You can go to the next slide. Softwood trees, this is an autumn blaze maple. This is a bad word. Autumn blaze maple, never, ever, ever, ever buy an autumn blaze maple, ever. Okay? This is an autumn blaze maple, and this is what it looked like spring of 2015. Softwood trees grow fast. Cottonwoods, ash, elm, anything fast growing is not generally good because there's a lot of water in the tissues and it freezes. So what happens when water freezes? It expands, kills the tissue. Anyway, generally speaking, when we have wild temperature swings, our softwooded trees like willows, cottonwoods, maples, the soft maples, they usually get hurt. You can go to the next slide, please.
I thought they finally banned those trees.
Well, that I'm not familiar with, but autumn blaze maple is the #1 selling tree nationwide. I'm just saying for Colorado, it's a bad choice. Very bad choice. It's really popular, but it's a really bad choice. And frozen tissue, what happens, it invites disease activity. And this is a willow tree, and there's some fruiting structures of some disease activity. Here's an ash tree that had gone through the same freeze. Frozen tissues, generally not good for trees. Next slide, please. Do you have a question?
I'm not being cottonwood trees, but you do see some monster cottonwoods that have been around.
Yes.
Along
yes.
watershed.
Yes, you are correct. Those are the plains cottonwoods. Plains cottonwoods are awesome trees if you have a farm or a ranch because their root systems are incredibly huge. But you are correct. The plains cottonwood, one of my favorite trees, live 160, 180 years. One of the greatest trees for the high plains, but it's a different. The ones that we have in our landscape are the male clones, the seedless, cottonless varieties. The plains cottonwood is a female, lives a long time, not a big surprise. All the men are dead. Anyway, so plains cottonwoods, good trees, but you better have a spot for it. Okay, ornamental pear, another tree is really, really popular. I bet you guys all have ornamental pears in your landscapes. This is another picture I took in the spring. All the bark froze off. This is spring of 2015, and we didn't know if these pear trees were going to survive because of that temperature swing. But you know what? Ornamental pear trees proving themselves to be great, great trees. One of the best ornamental trees that you can perhaps find is an ornamental pear. They don't produce fruit, they have great fall color, good flowers, and they're hardy. Anyway, we'll go to the next one. Oh yeah, we're all familiar with this. How can I save you guys money? I have been through every major snowstorm in Colorado since 1995. How many of you were here in September of 95? See a few hands. We had it was September 20th, 1995. We had 10 to 12 inches of snow, and it broke almost every single tree. What I can tell you to save yourself some money, trees that are pruned on a regular basis sustain little to no damage from snow. So if you want to protect certain trees from snow damage, get them pruned on a regular basis. So save you money. Try to prune a little bit. Go ahead.
What's the frequency?
You know, it depends. You guys' budgets are really, really tight. So what you want to do is you want to pick out the really valuable trees you know, that your building ownership likes. You know, they say, I don't want to take that. I like that tree. Those are the ones you want to protect. This tree here, ornamental pear, lady, she called me and said, can you save my tree? Nope, can't save it, sorry.
Yep.
Pear had a value of about $1,500. The cost to prune and cable the tree before the storm is about $539. Well, anyway, pruning on a regular basis will save you money in the long term. Go ahead, the next one. Again, people love trees. And this is one of my favorite pictures of all time. This was a homeowner who really, really loved his trees. I mean, he had heat lamps on the inside, he covered it up. You know how much time that takes to protect that tree?
That's a lot.
I mean, it takes a lot of time. He loves his trees. Go to the next slide. Hailstorms. Holy smokes, do we have hailstorms? Man, oh man, this is, believe it or not, another interesting year, September 2014. This was before the big freeze. This is down at Falcon Hills and Highlands Ranch. Stripped the bark, the leaves off these trees. This mugo pine ended up being taken out. Hail is a terrible, terrible thing. Not much you can do about hail. Question?
If your leaves are stripped, is that a death sentence?
No, it's not. Very good question. I like your questions. Trees have 2 and 3 sets of leaves. They're latent. You have your, and you've seen it all. When we get a spring freeze, freezes the first set of leaves off, we get a second set. Trees have 2 and 3 sets of buds. So if you strip them 2 or 3 times, they usually won't refoliate. It was so late in the year, these did not get leaves until the following year. But very good question. But trees are pretty resilient. 2 and 3 sets of buds that you can rely on. Okay, you can go to the next slide. Big pest, really, we're moving to the lawns. I know you guys deal with a lot with lawns. We have really dry spring weather, real dry winter weather. This is turf mite damage to a bluegrass lawn on a south or west facing slope. The lawn had to be replaced about $4,500. If the homeowner would have pulled the hose, turned the water on, it would have saved about $4,000. Anyway, I know you guys have a hard time because you can't just run out and turn your sprinkler systems on because you can have damage. The only thing I can say is be cognizant of it. And if we have really, really, really dry winter conditions, I can spray the mites and keep the mites at bay. Anyway, there are some frost-free systems on some of the irrigation systems where you can turn them on and turn them off without having any issues. Go to the next slide. Snow mold, we don't need to worry about snow mold. Don't spend money on snow mold fungicide. You have a lot of vendors coming your way. Oh, you need to spray. Oh, you need to spray. I'm telling you here right now that we spray and we fertilize way, way too much. And I can help you spend the money wisely. But generally speaking, oh, there's a little mold. Anybody ever seen a mold? Aren't they cute?
No.
Those are little cute guys. Anyway, they're the ones that do all kinds of damage to your junipers. Your junipers turn brown. Anyway, those are the little molds. We can go to the next slide. There he is. See the little trail that they leave. Anyway, you guys deal with molds. Molds can be devastating to your juniper. There's a property that I'm working with that has a tremendous mold issue. Anyway, go to the next one. More snow mold. Here again, no chemicals. 9 times out of 10, you don't need chemicals. Go ahead.
What are you supposed to do about these moles?
The molds, you can set traps.
Well, I get the sprinkling, spray them, whatever it is, seems to help, but you've got to be on top of it a lot.
You gotta reset the traps. You gotta replenish. I think what is it? There's the mice poison. Decon. You can set the decon traps out in the bushes, but you gotta redo it all the time.
Yeah, you do.
But monthly, there are professional mold people out there that'll take care of your molds. So, but mold damage could be thousands and thousands of dollars. Yeah. Okay. Squirrels. Russian olives. Squirrels. Oh my goodness. Go to the next slide. I'm just rushing through. Gentleman mentioned earlier about cottonwoods.
Yeah, tons of time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gentleman mentioned earlier about cottonwoods. This is a hybrid cottonwood. Yeah, this was in an HOA I was taking care of. Look at the size of that root system. Would you like to have the bill to take that stump out? That's about $3,000 right there. So planting the proper tree in the proper place is your best strategy. But, you know, cottonwoods are great trees. They are, but take into consideration what they can do to your lawn. And the sprinkler system. They pinch off the roots and are a pain in the neck. Okay, cottonwood trees. Smart plant selection. Study and observe. Go ahead. Okay, here's where we're really going to save some money. Let's prune. Why? Why should we prune? Now, the older a tree gets, the less amount of pruning you should be doing. If you take anything away from this class, this little seminar today, remember that. The older a tree gets, the less pruning you should be doing. The older a tree gets. Younger trees, sure. We do tend to prune way too much. Why? Because we want to make them. Shouldn't be pruning all that much. So when you do prune, make sure you do it properly. Because if you do it wrong, then we get decay. If you make large pruning cuts, real large pruning cuts on older trees, you will encourage decay, which then becomes a risk as far as a hazard, somebody, the branch falling on somebody, hitting somebody's car. So the older a tree is, the less pruning you should do. Try to keep it to dead wood only as it gets older. Questions about pruning? So, okay, next one. Here again, big old silver maple, making these big, massive pruning cuts, and then what happens, we get these huge interior decays. The older a tree gets, the less pruning you should do. So be suspicious of anybody who comes your way and recommending all this pruning to your trees. They should be, if they're good arborists, they should tell you the older a tree gets. Not going to do very much besides take out dead wood, weak branches, so on and so forth. Oh yeah, a lot of this, it's a very good point. We have a couple different types of maples, your hard maples and your soft maples. Silver maples are soft maples, and this is what this is, a silver maple, and they are notorious for decay. Silver maples are native to swamp land back in the Midwest and East. Do we have a lot of swamp land in Colorado? No. Anyway, silver maple has its place, but not every place. But that's a very good observation. The reason silver maples were planted so widely is because they grow fast. Generally speaking, a tree that grows fast is weak wood, soft wood. So you kind of want to be right in the middle. You want to have a tree that grows relatively quickly, but not too quickly so that the wood breaks all the time during snowstorms. Next one. Okay, getting into pest control, herbicides and insecticides. This is where I see a lot of waste, a tremendous amount of waste. People will see something that they want to control or get rid of. They see an insect. Not all insects are bad. 95% or more of insects are beneficial. I'm not the kind of guy that runs out and wants to coat the neighborhood and kill every insect on the block. What I like to do is identify the insect, make sure it's a threat. If it is, make the recommendation. Most insects are not threatening. So the point here is when you're out to do weed control, this is our friend crabgrass and our friend spurge, which is just now coming through. These are summer annuals. The thing is, you've got to know the life cycle. A lot of people out there making recommendations don't know the life cycle. And they'll make recommendations that aren't good. They're going to be wasteful. So you've got to know the life cycle of the weed, know the life cycle of the insect, of the mite, of the fungus. Controls work best when the pest is vulnerable. The best time to control crabgrass is not when it gets to this stage. You got to do it before, pre-emergent. Anyway, Use pesticides wisely and responsibly. So you've got to know what you're dealing with. The life cycle. Is it really damaging? That type of thing. Go ahead. That's where I can save you money. Here's another example. This is one of my favorite diseases. This is cedar hawthorn rust on hawthorns. Beautiful. By the time it gets to this stage, it's too late. This is the fruit. These are the fruiting structures. And by the time it gets to this point, when you notice it, it's too late. You have to be proactive. So again, if anybody comes to you and says, yeah, I think we need to spray, when it's at this point in time, be very suspicious. Be very suspicious. You guys know charlatans when you see them. All right. Transplanting. This is really, really critical as far as transplanting. The older a tree is, when you try and transplant it, the bigger it is in diameter, the tougher it is to establish. So let's say you have a 3-inch diameter tree when you purchase it. It's going to take 3 years for it to grow normal. If you plant a 1-inch tree, 1-inch diameter tree, it takes about a year for it to start growing normally again. So when you transplant, the bigger is not always the best. Some of the building owners you deal with, they want instantaneous, they want big trees, Not necessarily a good investment. Again, try to moderate a little bit. How many of you have ever had tree spade operations done? Anybody moved a tree with a tree spade? Okay. Tree spading is very, very interesting, and there's a lot of risk there. And remember this, you need a certain amount of soil for every diameter inch that you're trying to move. And there are some tree spade operators that will come out with a 90-inch spade and try to move a 10-inch tree. It'll kill them. The reason that some of these guys are charlatans is because they don't have a big enough spade. So if you ever are thinking about relocating a tree, talk to me. Because you can waste an awful lot of money awfully fast by using too small a tree spade to move a tree that's way too much. Because there is a formula. There is a definite formula. All right, next. All right. Overwatering. This is one of my pet peeves. This past spring, we had an extremely wet spring. And how many times was I driving to work seeing all these sprinkler systems out? Driving me crazy. Anyway, get a rain sensor. How many of you guys have rain sensors? Yeah. Get a rain sensor and then you can save some money on your irrigation. Is that one of your biggest costs, irrigation? Is that one of your biggest costs? What you guys spend on water? Most of the time. Anyway, we do, in Colorado, generally speaking, we're all good Americans. We water and fertilize way too much. Way too much. So if you're looking for a place to spend your money wisely, don't fertilize. The more you fertilize, the more you have to water. That makes sense, right? The more you fertilize, the more you have to water.
How often should you be fertilizing?
You know, it depends on the threshold, you know, the building owner. I would say minimum 3 times a year. But whenever I walk onto a property, I look at it, I go, boy, there's a lot of weeds here. Then I have to set your expectations. You know, it's going to take some time to get these weeds under control. So it depends on the condition of the turf. When I come onto your property is what I'll make my recommendation. Some of the lawns are in incredible shape. They don't need 3 applications. But if you have a lot of weeds, you're probably going to need 4 or 5.
So it would be what, like around spring, midsummer, and fall?
Correct. Yeah, I like to do. Yeah, if you have a reasonably healthy set of turf, do one in April, one in June, and one in late August, September.
And when you do the pre-emergent is like what, March?
Yeah, you know, you can do 2 applications of pre-emergent, but again, it depends on the type of. If you don't have a history of a lot of crabgrass and spurge, then there's no reason to really pile on the pre-emergent.
Okay, so like I'm thinking about my neighborhood, and my lawn does not have this issue, but I'm right next to multiple lawns that do.
Yep.
Who have the dandelion there.
Right.
So the problem with dandelions is that your neighbors are not treating,
right?
okay?
Yep.
All right, and so, or am I likely to pick up this dandelion?
Yeah, dandelions are survivors. They are really great survivors. So, yeah, you do have to kind of determine what your threshold of tolerance is. If you water and mow properly, and we're getting to that when we get to the next slide, I just wanted to point out that we tend to water and fertilize way, way too much. The more you fertilize, the more you have to water. Okay, mowing height. You guys don't have a ton of control over this, but this lawn here, this lady really yelled at me. She said she wanted a really, really green lawn, but she only wanted to mow her lawn once every 2 weeks. So she mowed it at about 1 inch. And I said, lady, I'm sorry, I cannot get you in 95-degree weather. I cannot get you a green lawn if you're going to mow it 1 inch. It can't be done. So she fired me. Anyway, the best way is to keep your mowing height set at 3, 4, even more inches. Then you save a ton of water. A ton of water is if you mow high. Get after your mowing contractor, whoever they are, tell them to mow at the highest possible setting. You save a ton of water. Okay. Herbicides. Trees have roots in lawns, and they will absorb herbicides. And I am not a big fan of what I call weed feed products. You go to the grocery store, you go to the big box store, and have a big pallet full of weed feed. Worst thing you can do for trees is to broadcast herbicides over the entire lawn. Worst thing you can do. Absolutely worst. But sure is easy, and it's cheap. Honey, I'll go out there, I'll take care of it for you real quick. It's $14.95 a bag. I'll put the herbicide down and we won't have any weeds. And before long, we won't have any trees either. So I like to spot treat. Just put the herbicide where the weeds are. Don't use weed and feed products. There are some lawn care companies that save time and save money. They will put the fertilizer in with the herbicide and spray the whole lawn. That is generally wasteful, always wasteful, and it's damaging to the trees. So limit the amount of herbicides. Next slide, please. We've all done this, right? We've all done this. I'm going to kill those weeds. I am going to kill those weeds if it's the last thing. So we did. Anyway, I can do this myself. Don't use the least expensive of anything. You'll always pay. You'll always pay. Next one. The best way to tell if your lawn needs water, and I like to stretch it out. I like to stretch my lawn out and make it suffer. Water is far between cycles. The best way to tell is if you see footprints. If you can see footprints on your lawn, it's time to water. Okay, this is a little excessive. This is a little excessive here, waiting a little bit too long. And this is also mowed real short. So mow high, and then if you see footprints, then it's time to water. The more you water, the more disease activity you have. But generally not going to have a lot of insects. Japanese beetles, please don't come back this year. How many of you like Japanese beetles? Okay, I don't like them either. Anyway, I had a lady call me up. She said, "Oh, what happened? Somebody came and vandalized my yard overnight." Anyway, the skunks and the raccoons were going after the big, juicy Japanese beetle larvae, and they were ripping the sod up like you wouldn't believe. They're big. Yeah, they love they're C-shaped. They're a lot like that, and skunks and raccoons. So they love to eat. Okay. Oh. All right. When you select trees, when your owner comes to you and says, "Please plant some trees," make sure you do your research. Do your research, because a lot of the trees that we have, autumn blaze maple, worst thing that ever happened in Colorado was the autumn blaze maple. They don't like alkaline soils, and it's really tough when a tree gets to this condition. You can't correct it. You cannot correct it. If I see a tree that's like this, I can probably do something with some supplemental treatments. But if it gets to this point, it's usually too late. It's turning too quickly. Yeah, it's we call this condition chlorosis, and it's due to the high pH And it's due to the fact that this autumn blaze maple has genetic characteristics that make it struggle with high. An autumn blaze maple is a hybrid between a red maple and a silver maple, and they're both swamp trees, native to swamps, which are acidic. So before you buy trees, make sure you do the research and catch chlorosis early. Don't wait. Okay, moving on.
Do a soil sample prior?
You know what? Soil samples are a great idea, but you know what? It can tell you some things. It can tell you some things, but not everything. And me personally, it's not really worth it unless you have some really significant problems. Really significant.
But won't it tell you you're alkali and your city base that you're even addicted that won't grow in?
Yeah, exactly. So what you have to do is kind of, try to get trees that are more able to tolerate alkaline soils. One of the best trees you could possibly get for this area is a hackberry. Remember that, hackberry. Hackberry is one of the best trees you can buy. It grows real slow initially, but it's one of the best trees. It doesn't have any pests. Anyway, early fall color. If you want to know, if you're a good guy and you want to know, something's wrong with that tree, look for early fall color in July. That seems odd. Fall color in July, not good. Next slide, please. Girdling roots. This is another one. We have, the root systems. I'm picking on autumn blaze maple again. They have girdling roots when they're propagated in the nursery. They weren't set out in the field properly. They have all these roots that are choking each other. We can work on that while the tree is young. We have an air knife that we can excavate all this soil and cut those roots. So before you give up on a tree with girdling roots, give me a call, because a lot of these younger trees we can work with. Next slide, please. We don't worry about, like I said, most insect problems, they're not a health risk. They're not bad. I had a lady call me and she was losing sleep over this. She had linden with some galls on her linden tree. Not really a health risk. Usually determine if it's a cosmetic problem, a nuisance problem, or if it's a health risk. Most insects are not a health risk. And a good arborist should be able to tell you that, which ones you should take action on. Next slide, please. I hate this. Absolutely hate it. Those black bags, collecting leaves. You should mulch. Try to talk to your mowing contractor because you want to improve the soil over time, and the way you can do that is to mulch leaves back into the soil. Put that organic matter back into the soil, build it up. So don't collect leaves. If you can all avoid it, don't collect leaves.
What about pine needles?
Pine needles, a different story. They don't break down as fast. Neither do cottonwood leaves. But generally speaking, what I like to do is I like to aerate in the fall, fertilize, wait till the leaves dry out, get crispy, grind everything up, let it all fall back into the aeration holes, and you're all set.
What about the mountain property?
Yeah, mountain properties, yeah, it's different. Anyway, try to improve your soil. Try to recycle the clippings. If you guys have a mowing contractor that's collecting clippings, whoa, no, don't be doing that. Recycle the clippings. Recycle the grass clippings. Never catch the clippings. Okay, next slide, please. Running out of slides here.
This is the next one.
Is this it? Go ahead, move to the next one. Is that it?
Oh.
No.
Hold on, please. There's the black bags.
That's it?
Yeah.
Okay, this is just some hail damage. You can see we had significant hail damage. When we get bacterial fire blight or disease activity, it's hailstones just pound these twigs, and that's how the pathogens or the disease organisms get in. Nothing you can do about hail. Next slide, please. More bacterial fire blight. So far this year, we're doing good. We haven't had much hail, so we don't have much fire blight. Please, no more fire blight. Okay, next one. Japanese beetle. Hopefully we don't have any problems. Here's again, when I go onto a landscape, and this is the middle of July, and I see all these green trees around here, and then I see this one tree in the middle of the front yard, beautiful fall color. There's a problem. That tree was dead in the next year. So early fall color is an indication you got an issue. Little signs and symptoms, early fall color. Middle of July, all the neighbors' trees are green, but this tree, bright red fall color. There's a problem. That tree was dead the next year. Girdling roots. Next slide. Planting. Start small, I would suggest, and don't dig it. The best way to kill a tree is to dig a hole that's too deep. Trees are expensive, right? Don't buy them, they're expensive. If you're gonna buy them, plant them right. We can help you how to do that. Next slide. Here again, using herbicides to control weeds. You gotta know what the species are. What is it, an annual? Is it a perennial weed? A lot of people waste an awful lot of money trying to control crabgrass in August. Anyway, plan ahead. We can help you make those plans. Stop the waste, stop the needless pollution. Next slide, please. There's my enemy right there. Never, ever buy weed feed. It's the worst thing you can do. It's cheap, it's easy, it's efficient, but you do more damage than you can ever imagine. And believe it or not, there are some lawn care companies out there that do weed feed. They'll come out, zip, 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 done. They put herbicide all over the whole landscape. Not good. All right. Again, footprints. If you see footprints, usually means it's time to walk. And you can't diagnose by just guessing. Sometimes you got to get on your hands and knees. Next slide. Today's landscapes, we're getting close to the end here. Xeriscaping. This was a neighborhood up in Broomfield, up near Boulder County. I loved it. There was very little, if any, turf grass. Beautiful butterfly-friendly plants. Didn't use a lot of water. Just gorgeous. So it can be done right. Xeriscaping can really be done professionally, really well, and it can be done. Next slide. I mean, I look at these landscapes. There's no turf. It was really done well with plants that aren't going to grow real fast. This was really smartly put together. So there's ways to do it. Xeriscaping done well. There's ways to do it. And I'll tell you, there's some really good architects out there. You know, we can point you. That's all I got. Again, I'm going a little quick, but I just want you guys to know that every day the decisions you make, you can save money. If you think ahead, plan ahead, talk to the right people, you don't have to waste a lot of money. Appreciate your hospitality and your attention. Do you have any questions? Yeah.
I just had a comment. You were talking about tree spade and moving trees.
Right.
Or like cutting them down or whatever. I used to build golf courses. And one rule of thumb I learned is, I mean, especially here, in this type of climate, is try and move a tree, you know, you got a 50-50 shot of losing it. You know?
Yeah, easy.
And their goal here, you know, like we did, I built golf courses in like Wisconsin and Michigan where there's trees are a dime a dozen, but you still have the chance of losing it. It's better to try and save it or keep it and try and move it.
Correct. And again, the old Green Gables Country Club, I worked on that project back in 2003. I relocated about 100 trees out there, and I had to measure every single tree, and I had to determine if it was healthy enough to move or not. It was on average about $1,500 to move a tree. And if you've got that kind of money to play with, anyway, there's ways to do it. You cannot move a deciduous tree when it has leaves.
No.
Can't do it.
In Florida, or, you know, when there's, you know, when they put palm, California, when they put palm trees, it was they used to put palm trees like it was nothing. You know, but in other kinds of trees.
I know you guys have a lot on your plates. You have a lot of stuff to worry about, but I'm telling you, with the experience that we have over the years, I've been in this business almost 45 years. I can save you a lot of money. One smart decision, and don't make a quick decision. Go ahead.
Well, one Italian properties, a property with this nice older growth aspen on it, and then so the aspen run, and I've got some gardens.
Yeah.
You want to running right along.
Yeah.
I'm killing aspens like they're ants.
Sure.
They never stop, they never, is there any way, I have two questions. Is there any way to terminate that kind of activity?
You try root pruning, but you know what?
Yeah, well, every time I do that, I usually hack into one of my water lines.
There you go. There you go.
That's pretty overworking.
You know what?
But,
It's a blessing in disguise. I wish I could.
but the other thing is, I am up against the house in certain forms of tree. From a fire hazard, I've been on hikes and things where forests have been destroyed, but the aspen will be sitting right in the middle, looking just fine.
Yeah.
My perception is that aspen can almost be a shield, when it comes to wildfires, where you have embers coming in. Do they tend to not burn?
There's a lot of moisture. Aspens are in the poplar family, like cottonwoods, a lot of moisture. Most of the branches are up high. And that's really a protective mechanism that
Almost like an umbrella
Yeah.
for ashes, but versus a juniper or a fir, right? Juniper is like a torch, right?
like a torch, absolutely. So, yeah, aspens are long-term survivors. A lot of moisture in the tissue. Most of the foliage is up high.
So when the insurance company says, hey, you have trees right next to your house, it's like, well, these are your friend. My friend, your friend. don't let me take them.
Exactly. So you do have to have a zone of protection. And there's a certain, everybody has different ordinances in their mountain towns. How far you have to have zone of protection, how far you need to have trees. But folks, I appreciate your time.
Just one last question
Yes.
on what you were saying about aspens. So I have aspen also, but mine are literally falling down. And I don't know if it's because, I mean, it's on the hillside, but they're also well-established and they're literally falling down.
Yeah, I have to see the situation to tell you, but it might
Three
be
of them
some,
fell down.
yeah, it might be soil disruption, wind,
Well,
so
I do have those.
balls. Good luck, folks. I know it's been tough. It's been a tough environment. Thank you for your attention.
Hey, yeah, please do. Yeah, go ahead. Come on in. Oh, hey, let me put the video back on. Here we go. I gotcha.
Hey, sorry that I was running a little late today. We had a Mayday with a transformer up in Greeley, so I'm a little late. But I want to make an announcement about the sporting clay shoot we had last week. It was went off the most beautiful day of the year, I think. Mike was there, and Paul was there, a couple other people were there. We actually had a turnout better than we thought. We had about 34 people show up. So the food was perfect. But the event went off really well. We actually made some money on it. So for our charity, we're going to be able to donate about $1,200. I feel like after all the bills are paid, we should be on that. So that was a positive. It's tough because we couldn't find ammo. We had all the problems in the world with COVID. So but we finally pulled it all together and we did have that event. So I just want to let everybody know that it did go off and next year it'll be better. So anyway, and Kelly was great help with all your help too. Get people to come through and the technology, we're getting a lot better with getting the stuff paid for. So thank you for that. And anybody that was there, the Unico guys, you had a pretty good turnout out there too. So thank you for that.
Great. Thank you, Brian.
On behalf of Craig,
Thank you. We're done.